So want to welcome everybody to our fifth module, and this will be at least officially the final module or session. Now we may do some Q&A if you guys are interested in that in some upcoming weeks, but this will be our fifth and final session on how to fix credit report errors. And what I would like to do is we'll do a little bit of a review and kind of go over the first four sessions, but I really want to pick up with what we did last week, which is looking at actual credit reports. And we talked about, I want to show you a few reports and just kind of walk you through the whole idea of being incomplete or inaccurate. And hopefully that will be a good starting point for us. And then we'll get into really what this session is about, which is, all right, you get your dispute to the bureaus and then you get responses, or maybe you get no responses. What do? Do you dispute again? Do you talk to a lawyer? If you talk to a lawyer, what are some ideas for how to find the right lawyer? And then if there's interest, we'll talk about, well, what can you really get in these types of cases under the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So let me share my screen here. And you should see, well, that's my home screen. Okay, here we go. So this is a TransUnion report, and I want to start with TransUnion just because in a lot of ways your TransUnion report is the easiest one to read. I think it's organized the best. And it's often where I personally start when I'm looking at a client's credit report is the TransUnion report. And I just grabbed about 3 pages here, but what I'm showing you basically applies to every negative account on this particular TransUnion report. So if you'll look, we've got this Ally Financial. Okay, so this is an automobile loan, an installment account, and it's paid. Okay, so it's closed, but it has some delinquencies on it. And look here at the payment history. And what I want you to see is, and this is one that was mailed and then my client scanned it in. So it's a little hard to see maybe, but this says May 2019. And so it's going back in time. This is June 2019, May, April, March, and then it goes on back to 2014 down here. And you can see you have this rating, which is, are you current? Are you 30 days late, 60 days late? What's the deal? And what I want you to notice is when we get to this month right here, there's just no data, okay, other than there's 30 days late. But how much am I past due? Well, it doesn't tell us. How much did I pay? It doesn't tell us. Maybe I paid 0, but it should say that. What's my scheduled payment? Doesn't tell us. What's the balance? No idea. It's incomplete. Does that make sense? How we're looking at this and saying, well, let's find the things that are incomplete or inaccurate about a credit report. And then you see the next month, it does have all that information. Now, if this was your credit report, only you would know whether this stuff is correct, okay? And then, but let's just assume it's correct. And I'd see here, Eric goes, oh, now I get what you've been saying about the payment history is the main point. Yeah, that's right. And I realized after we finished last week, I'm like, I should have put up actual credit reports, and I apologize for that. So consider this maybe module, 4.5 or something. And, but then go to the next month and it's just missing data. Now, notice down here, it says it's 60 days late. So the creditor's claiming we did not make a payment, but it has nothing there. It has nothing at past due, nothing on amount paid, nothing on scheduled payment, nothing on the balance. Well, then the next month, it says, okay. Well, it would only be okay if we caught it up. So obviously we must have made a pretty significant payment, but it shows nothing being paid. And the balance, we have no idea what it is. Well, then we go to the next month and now the balance is $24.29. Well, if we compare this month, hopefully you can see my cursor on this month, which is I guess that's January 2019. Compare that to a couple months before, we owed $35.85. Well, now we owe $24.29. Obviously, we've been making payments, but where are those payments? And then you see for the next month, it goes down to $18.46 and then $7.72. And you can tell we made an $1,100 payment, so that would get that $18.46 down to $7.72. There's going to be a little bit of interest and stuff. But then it says the next month, which is April 2019, it's zero was paid. Well, now we owe $7.99. Well, then the next month, 30 days late, but it doesn't show anything. And then the next month it says zero balance and we paid $216. Well, if it was $7.99 and then we paid nothing because we went 30 days late, how do we pay $216 and it goes to zero? So my point is, you just really want to carefully study the payment history particularly and focus in on that and say, what is incomplete? What is inaccurate? Now imagine it said that we were current and then the next month it says 60 days late. We go, wait a minute, how can I be 60 days late? It seems like we're missing something here. Or if it's just blank, hey, what happened? So let me know in the chat if that makes sense. And let's see, Eric says on January 2015 and December 2014 is 30-day indicator needed and important. Let me find that. So it's weird on this little webinar thing. When I share my screen, I can kind of see what I'm sharing, but it's sort of faded out. So that's why I keep looking off to another screen here. And this is kind of the print's not so good to read. Yeah, so this is showing 30-day lates. Now it's not giving us any other history. We would like to have the other history. Again, like we see up here, the balance, schedule payment, amount paid. That's why it can be helpful to request it by mail, to also pull it on annualcreditreport.com. Because sometimes you get, with the same credit report, same company, you'll get a little bit different, maybe more or less data. But, this is just showing us that we're 30 days late. The fact that we're 30 days late in December and then 30 days late in January would imply to us that we made one payment. We're just staying 30 days late. And this may be a good point to kind of take a step back. When I'm helping a client, and this would be true for you when you're helping yourself, there's kind of two ways to think about this. There's the internal, okay? And then there's the external or the outside. So what do I mean by internal? Well, what I mean is this sort of stuff, okay? Just looking at the credit report, not comparing bank accounts and did we make a payment, did we not make a payment, just saying, hey, look, I can look at this and knowing nothing else, I can see there's all this missing data. Or again, if we had like a 30-day, then a 90-day, and then a current, and then a 120-day, we'd go, how is that possible? Okay. So we can just look at the credit reports and figure that out, and also compare the three credit reports or four or five or however many you have. But then there's the external or the outside world. Okay. So this shows, for example, that in July 2018, we were current, but then August 2018, we're 30 days late. Is that true? I don't know. I can't tell from this credit report whether that's true. So if this was a client, I'd say to the client, hey, go look at your bank statements, look at your emails, see, did you make a payment? Was that payment reversed? Was it, undone somehow? And if you made a payment, did you make the minimum payment? Did you make it, within that 30-day period? Because I can't tell that from the credit reports. Now, obviously, if you're doing this for yourself, you have to, look both internally, but then look externally at your bank records or other documentation. Maybe you have a statement from this company. Typically, we don't with the car company, but imagine it was a credit card. Maybe the credit card shows for a month where they say you were late that you actually paid during that month. And, that it's not for the previous month or anything. You can sort of match all the payments up. So that's something to do. Now, again, only you can do that. Even if you hire somebody to help you, really you're the only one that knows whether 4 years ago you were late. I mean, occasionally we'll have clients come to us and they'll say, hey, here's access to my bank account. If you'll go through and check and see every time there's a late payment, see if we went ahead and made a payment. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, we're not doing that. Like, you do that. You're the only one that knows that. I don't know whether you made a payment or not. But even if you don't have any of that information, you can just look internally and find these errors. So let me check the chats here. So Warren says, makes sense, sounds like an error. Eric says, so consecutive reports be the best way to compare the historical information. Yeah, that certainly is one way to do it, because you may find that it changes. But also, compare Equifax with Experian. So when we look here, for example, at, I think that's May 2019, there's no data there. Well, what does Experian say? What does Equifax say? And anytime you can find them contradicting themselves or they're missing data, that gives you an opportunity to dispute. Let's see. Chi says, thank you for doing this. What do I do when the 3 credit agencies do agree in their reporting? What do I do? Well, if they're internally consistent and they're consistent amongst themselves, then it's going to be correct unless you can show that it's incorrect. So they say you didn't make a payment in June 2018. You're like, well, here's my bank statement showing I did. Well, that would give you a basis to challenge it. But without that, I mean, you need some basis, in my view, to do a dispute that either they fix it or you sue on it. You need to have some level of proof with it. Either, look, guys, this is inconsistent, or this is missing data, or here's my proof. Here's my bank statement showing that I made this payment. Here's a credit card statement showing that the payment was received, but yet on the credit report, it shows an inaccuracy. Let me give you another example. I didn't have this one pulled up, but I was just looking at this with a lawyer last night. It had I want to say it was an American Express, and it was updated April 21, and it said this was TransUnion. So they don't give you what's called the date of first delinquency. They give you the estimated date it will be removed. It said November 2017. And I kind of looked at it. I said, wait a minute, we're doing a Zoom call. I'm like, when was this report? Yeah, this report was pulled like 2 days ago. But yet this negative account, the very first negative account, said estimated date of removal, November 2017. So that would be something great to put in to the dispute letter to TransUnion. And the way I do is I list all the bureaus. I would just write in there, TransUnion, why are you reporting on this when you say it will be removed in 2017? And here we are in May 2021. Please explain this. Now, they'll probably fix it, but they may not, or they may just delete the account. So you're just looking for those errors. Let me go back to the chat here. Let's see, which of the agency we dispute to? So I dispute to all 3. Now, if you do Innovis and SageStream and others, however many it is, but I just do one letter to all of them. I list every account I'm disputing, and then I just I should have put up what we did last week. I'll see if I can find that, the sort of form dispute letter. But you basically just identify the account: American Express, Bank of America, Midland Funding, whatever. And then for each sort of category, I just say, all right, on the payment history, TransUnion, why do you have no payment history on these months? Equifax, why do you have no payment history on these months? Experian, why do you have no payment history on these? So it's all one letter, but you just spell it out. And let's see, Cedric. Hey, good to see you, Cedric. Good stuff. And Marie says, what should a charge-off look like on a report? Well, I think we have one coming up, and I'll show that to you, Marie. And then let's see, do you then mail to each of the agencies or send it to one? So if I'm disputing to all 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, I'm just literally sending each letter to each bureau. So it's one letter, right? Let me tell you why I do this. There have been people, and lawyers do this too, where they'll have an Equifax letter, and so it has all the errors to Equifax, and they stick that in the Experian envelope. Doesn't do any good, right? So here's my simple way. the letter says, Dear Equifax, Experian and TransUnion. It's the identical letter, so it doesn't matter which letter I put in the Equifax envelope, the Experian envelope, TransUnion envelope. And okay, so good. That looks like that answered the question. Let me just show you now with Capital One. And if you'll notice on here, it says account paid in full was a charge off. Okay, so it got charged off, but then we paid it. And then let's look at the history here. So if we start down in July 2018, it says that we were okay. And then we come around to August 2018. Okay, now it's missing data. Okay, so we certainly could dispute that. But look at September 2018. Now we're 30 days late and we're missing the data. So that would definitely be something I would dispute. I'd say, hey, TransUnion, in September 2018, you don't list the balance, the scheduled payment, the past due, the high balance, the remarks. You just put a 30-day rating on there. And same thing for August 2018. Well, then we get to October, and now they have everything, okay? But they say we're 60 days late. Well, we kind of need to know if we were really late in September to know if in October we should be 60. And then for November 2018, it says we're 90 days late. And then 120, and then 120. But look at February 2019. There's nothing there. Just no data at all. Okay. And so where's the balance? Where's the scheduled payment? Where's the past due, the high balance? Okay. Now we get to March 2019, it's a charge off. Okay. And so with a charge off, this was Marie asked the question, what should a charge off look like? A charge off can be every month that it's a charge off status. There should be no scheduled payment, because with the charge off, really the whole thing is due now. Okay. And so you'll notice they no longer have a scheduled payment. So we have past due 686, high balance 686. This is a charge off. And then we have April 2019. Well, look, the balance went down. What, $60, $58? Well, what happened? Was there a payment? Now, this one doesn't have a category for payment, but we could certainly ask them what happened. And then we go down again. And you can see it's going down as we progress through time. And then we get down to $56 is the balance, February 2020. March 2020, no data. No data all the way through until 21. And now it says zero balance, and now it says a charge off. We go, well, that's kind of weird. What's going on? So we go back to the account and we say, oh, last payment was made February of 2020. Now, we're not told the amount, but we know the last payment's February 2020. It was paid in full. It was a charge-off. It's not currently a charge-off. It was a charge-off. So remember, last payment February of 20. So find February 20 is right here. Now it says balance of $56. Well, if that was my last payment and the account's paid in full, there shouldn't be anything after February 20. Why is there something for March, April, May, all the way through, and they have no data there? And then now in January of 21, they're reporting that the current status of February of 21, January of 21 is a charge-off. It's not a charge-off, okay? Because it was paid. The current status is it's paid. They can say it was a charge-off, but when was it a charge-off? Was it a charge-off in January of 21? No, because we paid it in February of 2020. So let me know if that makes sense, because I want you to see how we use the payment history, but then we go back to sort of the main part of the account, and we're looking for things that don't make sense. So we can see that this supposedly the last payment was in February of 20 right here, and it's paid in full. Well, if this was not the last payment, if February 2020 was not the last payment, in other words, there was a payment after it, then this is wrong. When it says last payment, February 20, there's only one last payment. Okay, you can't have two last payments. There is one last payment. They say February 2020, So why are they updating it in January of 21 showing a charge-off? These would be questions that we would ask. Again, there's no magic way to ask this. There's no secret formula. You just type it into the letter. Go, hey, TransUnion, I'm really confused on this. What is this, Capital One? You say the last payment's February 2020. Why are you showing January 21 a charge-off? And why is all this data missing? First of all, why are there even months listed here after I paid it off in February 20? And why does it show a balance in February 20 if I paid it off in February 20? So again, I don't want you to think there's some sort of secret formula or just the right word. It's just like you're having a conversation. And I've described this one time in a video, I don't think in this series, but so imagine you're sitting at a table and there's Capital One and there's Equifax and Experian and TransUnion. And they say, okay, tell us what your problem is. Well, you would just talk to them. You go, guys, I made the last payment February 20. You say I paid it in full. Why are you reporting in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December? And why in the world for January 21 are you reporting a charge-off? That makes no sense. Why are you doing that? Just put that in writing, okay? So let me go back to the comments here. Let's see, Marie says, so a charge-off can be reported as past due. Yeah, so the charge-off is really the rating, okay? What's the status of the case or the account? And the past due is just literally how much are you past due? Not always, but normally the past due would be the same amount as the balance owed, okay? Now, if I'm current on my Capital One card and I owe $5,000, you know, I have a balance of $5,000, the past due may be zero, okay? So let's see here, Sharon. So they can't report charge off after settled. So let me answer that in a couple ways. If we paid it off or settled, however you want to think about it, in February 2020, then it should not show a charge off after that. Now in the status, the pay status, it can say in past tense was a charge off because that's true. It was a charge off, or it was 30 days late. It was 60 days late. It was 90 days late. But they need to make it accurate to say account paid in full or settled in full for less than full balance, whatever they want to do. Where it becomes a problem is that they just leave the pay status as charge off. But you've settled it. You paid it. Because with TransUnion, the pay status is the current pay status. Now, when they get sued for this, they go, oh, well, when we say current pay status, we really mean past pay status. Well, no, you don't, because if that's what you meant, you would say past pay status. You say current pay status. Now, it doesn't list it here, but a lot of the reports, it'll say current pay status, or it will define the term as this means the current status. So hopefully that helps you, Sharon. And then let's see, Pandora. Account was paid, but should have never been sent to collections. The amount due was for equipment, but internal account corrections were never made. Sent proof. So, Pandora, this will be when we really get into this fifth module here, which is, all right, you get a response back from the credit bureau. What do you do? So hold that thought. We'll come back to that. See, Josh says if balance is $17,230.63, they report $17,230. Is that inaccurate, or can they skip the cents? In my view, they can skip the pennies. You know, they can round it up or down. So let me show you just one more on this TransUnion report. And so this says it's a credit card, and this is charged off. Okay, and it's been purchased by another lender, so unpaid balance charged off. So now again, I would ask the client, hey, is all this information correct? You know, as far as the date you made the last payment, July 25th, 2019. Now, you know, I'd ask TransUnion, why does it show a zero balance here or a zero payment received when you said, here's the last payment made? But look at this as we start off in the end of 2016. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. October 2018, we hit 30 days late, 60, 60. Apparently we catch it up January 2019. February 2019, it's 30 days late. And then it's 60 and 60. Well, now we're missing all this data. May 2019, June, July, August, all this data is missing. But notice the rating. See, in April 2019, we're 60 days late. May, we're 60 days late, which either that's wrong or we made a payment that basically, caught us up a month, but then we fell behind a month. So that's why we're still 60. Well, amount paid, it's blank. That's incomplete information. What's the balance? We see the balance is 2803 in April 2019. And when we get to September 2019, it's 3,000. So something's changed along here, but we're not showing it. And see, we get to July, we're 120 days late. August, we're 90 days late. We must have made one payment, but it's not showing. And then we have September, 3,000, and it gets a little bit more. And then there's no data here, okay? So this would be something that would be easy to dispute. You just look at this, again, internally, like not even looking at your bank statements or anything else. Just say, hey guys, we're missing data. TransUnion, what is the balance, the scheduled payment, the amount paid, the past due for February 2019, June, July, August, and then in November 2019, same thing. And, you say I made a payment, last payment made July 25th, 2019. I mean, TransUnion, that's what your report says. Why don't you show the amount paid in the column or the field or the block for July 2019? Why is it blank? Which one is it? Okay. And so this is not complicated for the bureaus. Like if you say up here, here's your last payment, then it ought to be real easy to put it in the July 2019 payment history. And so again, there's no magic language. You just literally would type that out. Hey, TransUnion, I'm confused. Here's this missing data. Here's this information that doesn't make sense. I want you to fix it or delete the whole account. Okay. And that period, new paragraph. Okay. And so let me see if we have any questions on that. Josh says, what about terms? My original term was 72 months. They show 80 months. Yeah, unless you extended it, did some kind of modification or forbearance extension, then I would say, okay, and this is external, right? Because we don't know this from the credit report unless the other credit reports say this. But you say, hey, Equifax, you show that the months are 80 months. But look, here's a copy of my contract. It's 72 months. Either fix that or delete the whole account. So that is really the process. We identify the error and say, fix it or delete the whole account. Kate says if they delete the account, it gets put back on again. So that's what's called a reinsertion. So when they delete something and then it comes back on, they have to, within 5 days, I think it's 5 business days, but within 5 days, the Bureau has to notify you, hey, Kate, just want to give you a heads up. We took this off. We're putting it back on. We just want to alert you to that because otherwise you would not know. Okay. I mean, this is an unusual time when annualcreditreport.com, we can check our credit reports for free, once a week. Normally you can only do it once a year. So you wouldn't know that it's back on, and it would be unfair for the credit bureau to say, guess what? You have to buy a report from us every single day to know whether we take something off and then put it back on. So the law says, pretty common sense, hey, if you've taken something off and you're putting it back on, alert the consumer, tell the consumer, we put this back on. Here's why we're putting it back on. Here's a little heads up. They never tell you that. I mean, in 20 years of suing credit bureaus, I think I've seen one time where a credit bureau said, hey, we are putting this back on your report. And when they don't, that's an easy violation to sue them for. So let's see. Kate says, if it's still inaccurate and they put it back on. Yeah. So I might dispute it again. And even if they fix it and delete it, I might still sue them for that reinsertion claim. But if they don't fix it, now you have the reinsertion claim and you have them not fixing it. Okay. And then let's see. The question, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Fleur, I guess. Hopefully I'm not messing up your name there. But say if they do not advise you that they're reinserting it, what then? Well, I would get with a lawyer that does this type of work, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because I think that you sort of have in your back pocket a claim against them for not telling you. I would probably still dispute it again and say, hey guys, you took this off, you put it back on, what's the deal? There's a 50-50 chance the Bureau is going to write to you and say, we deem this to be frivolous and we're not going to investigate this because we've already investigated this. Basically, don't talk to us again. We go, okay, we can accommodate you. We can sue you for that. All right, let's see. Marie says, right. Kate, yes, surprise. Going through that right now, Marie. She says, if one credit agency removes something, is a burden on the rest to do the same? No, because each bureau, is responsible for their own stuff. Now, the furnisher, if they realize, so Capital One, if Capital One realizes, hey, we should be deleting this, even if you only dispute through TransUnion, they're supposed to tell you or tell the other bureaus. Often that doesn't happen. And, as a practical matter, we dispute with all the bureaus. So we kind of take care of that. Must the collector furnisher provide the trade line for the original creditor to the CRA? This is from Paul. So the collector would not provide the trade line for, say, Synchrony Bank. So let's say Portfolio claims to have bought your account. They only provide their information. Capital One, if Capital One or Synchrony Bank's on your credit report, that's supposed to be from Synchrony Bank, so not from the debt collector. And that's why it's a good idea to compare the two when you have that situation, because oftentimes you'll find that there are errors. Like Portfolio will say, we bought the debt January 2021, but you'll see Synchrony Bank is reporting the account in February of 21. And reporting it with a balance and all that sort of stuff. You go, well, that's weird because Portfolio says they bought it a month before in January, and here you are, Synchrony, in February reporting this. So again, just sort of get your mind wrapped around the idea of you're looking for inconsistencies, errors, things that just cannot make sense, and then you just put that in the letter. And Josh says, so about the terms. So yeah, if your terms, let's say it's a car loan, it's 6 years, 72 months, but on my credit report, it says 80 months. Well, I would first make sure that I didn't extend the loan, maybe do like a loan modification or forbearance or something. And if the loan was not touched, in other words, it's still 72 months, I would dispute that to the Bureau and say, hey, you say it's 80 months. Look at the enclosed copy of my contract. It's 72 months. Fix it or delete the account. So hopefully that helps. And let's see, debt buyer shows credit limit showing, I thought I saw something on there. Okay. So we'll come back to that. And so really this is the last account I wanted to show you on TransUnion, but if we pull Verizon, you would see it lists about 12 months of history, all with an X on it. And let me see here so most of the credit bureau, the reports will give you a little grid or sort of glossary here. So X means unknown. NR means not reported. Now, a lot of times they use X for not reported, but either way, so you go to them and you say, look, you have a place to report this. You're not reporting the data. Now, there's a couple of possibilities. One is that Ally Financial is not reporting that to TransUnion. So TransUnion's like, hey, we're reporting everything we got. So you point out TransUnion, you're missing these months of data. So they go to Ally and say, hey, consumer wants you to fill this in. And Ally says, nope. Well, then TransUnion should delete the account. And frankly, Ally should agree to delete it because they're not supposed to report incomplete information. Well, what if TransUnion is the one at fault? So Ally is sending the information to TransUnion. TransUnion, because of some error, because of some defect in their software, is just not reporting certain months. Well, then that's not Ally's fault. That's TransUnion's fault. So we dispute it. TransUnion goes to Ally, says, hey, supply this information. Ally supplies it, and it comes back and it's still missing. I mean, I've got a lawsuit I'm filing today on this matter. Well, now we don't know whose fault it is. So we would sue the Furnisher too. And the Furnisher says, hey guys, I provided all that to TransUnion. We say, great. Give us a sworn statement, an affidavit. You throw TransUnion under the bus. You say, we absolutely provide all this information. We've done it repeatedly, and put all the blame on TransUnion, and we'll get you out of the case, and we'll get extra money from TransUnion. Now it's a decision time for the Furnisher, because a lot of times they lie. I mean, every lawsuit we file, they come to us and go, John, you made an error here. We didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, swear under oath. And they go, well, let's not get carried away, John. I mean, I don't think we need to do that. And I'm like, no. I don't want any of your money. I want to get it all from TransUnion, because when I file a case, there's a certain dollar figure that I have in mind. I don't care how it's split up. It just, that dollar figure has to be paid. So whether it all comes from TransUnion or from Ally or whoever, I don't care. And then they start getting squirrely. And then you find out, yeah, they really didn't provide this information to TransUnion. Well, the bureaus do the same thing. They're like, John, this is all the fault of the Furnisher. I'm like, okay, you help me prove that and I'll let you out. Well, we have a relationship and we don't want to point fingers. I'm like, well, then pay the money. Okay. So that's the deal with TransUnion here. And let me check out some of these comments here. Sean says, should we exclusively use the revised FCRA September 2018 as opposed to September 2012? 2012 appears to be more consumer friendly. We have to use whatever the current version is on the day you write the letter. So if it's been amended, and like, for example, the CARES Act, which came out in the end of April of 2020, actually amended the FCRA. And so it's really whatever the current version is. And Darren says, do account numbers change when you have like a sold or a charge off? The account numbers don't change, but if somebody does buy that, then they're going to have their own account number. So Portfolio Recovery has its own account number. Midland Funding has its own account number, and they would not be the same as Synchrony Bank or Capital One or whoever they bought it from. Let's see, Eric says, balance shown is higher than the high limit, which was changed 3 months prior by them and charged off, leaving the high balance above the credit limit. Should I dispute? So this is getting a little more technical, but it's a great question. I make the argument that they should show the credit limit and the high balance for every month. Because let's say I have a $5,000 credit limit and I'm running at $4,000 a month. And then, this month they reduced my credit limit to $1,000. Well, it looks like I'm $4,000 on a $1,000 credit limit. Okay. I'm like way over my credit limit, which I am today. Okay. But if they make it appear that way for the 5 years I've had the loan, well, that's not correct. And so I would argue to them, hey guys, put in there the credit limit for each month, the high balance. And if we look at TransUnion, you'll see they kind of do this. The high balance was $33,000 from October to October. Then this number right here, let me find so here's Capital One, credit limit, $500 from October 2018, January 2019, $500 from March 2019 to February 2020, and then $500 from January to January. Well, I never make a claim to be the smartest guy in the world, but I think we're missing a month here, aren't we? See, October 2018 to January 2019, it's $500. And then from March to February 20, what about February 2019. Now, maybe it was $500, but I would ask them, hey, TransUnion, tell me what the credit limit was February 2019, because you're not reporting that. Okay. And so again, and that's why I say use that spreadsheet that I gave you guys last week. Just when you put all this on there, then you can kind of step back and look at the spreadsheet and go, oh, this isn't right. This is another thing I can dispute. Look, if you can come up with 20 things wrong with the account, put all 20 in there. Again, if you listen to some people, they say, oh, we'll only, put 3 items of dispute per account. That's just complete garbage. At least in my world, it's complete garbage. I'll clarify it like that, because when we send a letter, either it gets fixed, it gets deleted, or we're suing somebody. Okay. I'm not doing things where, I'm going to go a 6-month dispute process and send the same letter over and over and slightly tweak it and add new. No, I'm getting it all out at once, and it's either going to get fixed, deleted, or we sue. Okay. So let's see. You guys have been chatting while I've been talking, and my little chat screen has gone up. So let me find it here. Marie, wish all lawyers were like you. Well, that would probably be a bad thing, because I certainly have my faults, but I appreciate the kind comments there. Joe says, do you sue all 3 bureaus in the same suit? Yes, we do. And we like to get them all in there. And really, we put as many defendants in as we can, because what happens is at some point they start shooting at each other. And that's, kind of where you sit back, you grab your popcorn, you're just kind of like watching the show, like, hey, I don't care. You guys shoot at each other. It doesn't bother me. So let's see, Arnold, the original trade line will not list comment or status that charge-off has been settled in full. Is that an error? So Arnold, I would say it is. And it could either be, so going back to this, it might be listed in the pay status. It might be listed under remarks. And we'll see remarks, I think, in a different credit report. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a specific spot, although in your example, I do think that would have to be in pay status. But, sometimes I give an example, it's discharge in bankruptcy. It might say in the pay status, include in bankruptcy, or it might say in the comments or the remarks, include in bankruptcy. And normally that would be okay. So you just sort of look at it as a whole to find. Let's see here. Michael says, would the $0 charge-off account that was sold to another bank collector be updated if the consumer paid or settled with the new bank collector, or would it say charge-off with the original? So it generally would stay a charge-off with the original, because they're not supposed to be updating it after they sell it, okay, unless there's some error in what they have reported, but it would not be updated. Okay, now here's just a little hint. A lot of times, if you let's say it's a Capital One, and then it's sold supposedly to Midland, and you work it out with Midland, or you beat Midland in trial, if you dispute that, a lot of times that Capital One will come off. Okay, now that's one thing I would not sue on, but at least not necessarily sue. But you could say, hey, look, this is inaccurate because I did settle this debt. And, I want them to update this. But personally, I just generally leave those things alone. Okay. And there's sort of a litigation strategy. If we find enough things to sue on, then when the credit bureaus come to us to settle, then what we can always tell them is, okay, I'll settle with you. You got to pay X number of dollars, and I want these things off my report. Now they can go, we'll never do that. Okay, fine. Then we're not settling. But if they really want to settle, and we always want to be in a position where we don't care about settlement. Okay, so there's an old joke that the reason I know it's old is because my dad told it to me when I was like 16, which has been like 10 years ago or 34 years ago, or however long ago that's been. But the joke goes, the teacher says to the student, what's the biggest problem in the American education system? Is it ignorance or is it apathy? And the kid goes, I don't know, and I don't care. Okay. So when it comes to settlement in the lawsuits that I handle, my firm handles, we want to be sort of apathetic about settlements. Like, I don't care. You want to settle? That's fine. You don't want to settle? Doesn't matter to us. So we are never pursuing them about settlement. We want them pursuing us. And if they really want to settle it, we might say, well, I want this account off and this account off and this account off. Even if we haven't sued on it, that's an option to do. So let me go back to the chats here. Jeff says, are medical collections supposed to be notated as such when credit reported by a collection agency? Yeah, it's a good question, Jeff. I don't know 100%. Generally, they are, or on the sort of the original creditor part of the debt collection account, it'll say like, Smithville General Hospital or Dr. Jones Anesthesia Group. So generally, it gives you some indication. Let's see. Darren says, I have an account that appears to have split into 3 or 4 different or similar account numbers. Some say lost or stolen. Some say paid in full. Some say charge off. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, Darren. Okay, so let me say it this way. I have a Discover card, account number 1234. If I lose that account or lose that credit card and they give me a new number, well then normally what they would do is just change the number, but keep all the same history because it's the same account. I mean, the account number may have changed just for my own protection because I lost the card, but it should be the same account. But if they are splitting them and let's say one of them is negative and yeah, you said one or more than one, say charge off, but you paid it in full, I would insist on all those being shown as paid in full. And actually, I would say they all need to be just consolidated into one account. Because let's say my Discover card, I lose it 3 times, and so I have 4 accounts, and it says 4 charge-offs, and there are 4 balances. Well, that makes it look like, if it's $1,000 a card, that I owe $4,000. No, I only owe $1,000. So I would just explain that to them and say, I don't understand this. I only had 1 Discover card, but you now have 4 accounts, and notice it says lost, stolen, whatever. I want you to get rid of these except for one, and it should say paid in full. So again, I would just imagine you're sitting there at the table with these guys and you just explain it to them. So sometimes people try to be really formal or, fancy in their dispute letter. Just make it plain, understandable, clear, clean language, okay? We just want a judge reading this to say, yep, okay, pretty simple. Did you do that? Why didn't you do that? This is so simple. There's go off on a slight tangent here. There are people that use complicated language to try to sound smarter, okay? When I hear people using complicated language when they don't need to, I assume they're dumber, not smarter. Because the smarter you are, the more simple it should be to explain something. And I read this one time in a book, thought this was just brilliant. It said, look, you start over here, and this is, you don't understand much. And as you start to learn more, you get into this area of complexity. Well, some people just stay there, and they like it. Everything is so complex. But the real trick is here you are in complexity. You go through the complexity and you arrive at simple, not simplistic, but simple. This is my iPhone. Okay. It's incredibly complicated how it works, but not how I use it, right? I like press a button or put my, thumbprint on it, or I do this, or I say, the name of that certain lady who I won't say because it'll turn my phone on and my computer. So, you're thankful that the engineers at Apple didn't stop in the complex, right? They passed through there to the simple. And that's what we want. We want our letter to be simple. Hey, I used to live at this address, but I don't anymore. Get rid of it. Hey, I never lived at 123 Main Street. Get that off my credit report. Hey, you're missing data for these months. You're missing the pay status, the account balance, whatever. Fix it or delete it. We just want to be as simple and precise and clear as possible. So ironically, I hope that makes sense. So let's see here. Kate says credit limit 0, account type other, terms unknown, amount past due 8,200, delinquency, date opened, date of first delinquency. Okay, so it's a junk debt buyer reporting it. So the date opened is when the junk debt buyer or the collector received the account. Okay, now that would certainly be after the date of first delinquency, because it would go delinquent, then it would be sold or assigned to somebody. Delinquency first reported May 1st, 2020. That's okay. In other words, like if we go back to this Capital One, let's see, we went delinquent in September 2018. Well, they might, for whatever reason, wait till September 2019 to report that, to sort of go back in time to say, well, back in 2018, you were delinquent. So, Kate, with that, I would just, and I may be missing something there and trying to read it in the chat, but I would just sort of chart all that out and say, okay, does this make sense? Keeping in mind the date open for a collector doesn't mean when the account was open, it means when they received it. Okay, so they might say, hey, John, you opened this credit card in 2015. We got in 2020, the date open will be 2020, even though the date delinquent may have been 2016. Josh asked about the spreadsheet. So, Josh, we had that in the last session. If you will email me after this, and I'll send that to you. And if I can, toward the end, I'll try to attach everything, even in this this one here. So let's see. So lawsuit accounts, you suggest waiting to dispute with the bureaus. So if you've been sued, if you have a legitimate basis to dispute, that's fine. Okay. Now there is a strategy, and this will tie in when we do our FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act webinar. But if you answer a lawsuit and you dispute it, personally, I wouldn't do anything else with that account on the credit bureaus if it does not say disputed. I would wait a month or two and see, do they update it and mark it as disputed? They have to under the FDCPA if we're talking about a debt collector. And so if you answer and then a month goes by and they update your report and don't show it as disputed, that in my view is a slam dunk violation of the FDCPA. It's section 1692E8, which just says a debt collector has to mark an account as disputed if it's disputed. Well, your answer filed in court is like the ultimate dispute letter, okay? So that's one strategy with the lawsuit. But otherwise, I would wait till I'm done with the lawsuit. Hey, did I beat the debt collector or the original creditor? Now I'm going to dispute it and say, hey, I got sued. I denied owing them. I won. Get off my credit report. Or maybe you settled with them. They sued you for $5,000. You paid them $3,000. Once you pay that $3,000, they dismiss the lawsuit. Does your credit report show $2,000? It should not. It should be zero because you owe them nothing. So that's sort of my approach with lawsuits. So David says, wouldn't putting all inaccurate items at once increase statutory damages for each item if they choose not to investigate? It can. Okay, and there's a difference of opinion among courts under the FCRA statutory damages. That can be up to $1,000 if it's willful or reckless. Is that $1,000 total, like the FDCPA, or is that $1,000 per violation? Kind of depends on which court you're in. I just think it makes it very easy for them to investigate. And when they choose not to investigate, it looks really, really bad when it's like, hey, here's one letter. I've got everything self-contained in this one letter, as opposed to I sent 12 separate letters to Equifax disputing 12 accounts. And they go, my goodness, we got 12. We opened the package, like the letters flew everywhere, and we got confused. I mean, yeah, we skipped number 6, but I thought it was number 6. It was really number 7. I just like one letter and literally can just go through that. And I'll show you this when we get towards the end, sort of how to analyze the results and not to spoil it, but to tell you what it is. I would just have a copy of my dispute letter and, okay, here's ABC account, Equifax, you're not reporting history on July 2019. I would just look at the results investigation. If they do, put a check mark. Hey, they fixed it. Or if they did not fix it, like circle that. Hey, that may be something I sue on. Go to the next item. And so that's how I did it. Let's see, Kate, would you suggest in-person court or Zoom court of being sued by a junk debt buyer? We'll have probably a webinar series on dealing with these debt buyers, but I prefer in person, okay? Because if they're going to bring a witness, I want to see that witness live. I want to be able to examine that witness live. I want to know that's really the witness. I want to know there's not somebody off screen like feeding them answers. And you might look in your court system, it's generally around Rule 43 of the Rules of Civil Procedure. And sometimes I will talk about, can somebody appear remotely? Okay, so in Alabama, where I practice, our rule was changed in November because of COVID to say you can appear remotely, but they stress only under extraordinary circumstances, because there's something about walking in a courtroom that impresses upon a witness, I better tell the truth. It's a little easier to do it, with a webcam, and maybe they're more tempted to lie. So I like them in person, whether they have to drive across town or fly across country, I don't care. I want you in person in my courtroom so I can look you in the eye. I can see your body language. The judge can see your body language. So I personally don't like Zoom trials. They're fine for some kind of hearings, but they're not my favorite to do as an actual trial because you lose so much, I think. And it's to the advantage of the junk debt buyer to do it by Zoom. It's to our advantage to do it in person. Let's see, what's the residency requirement for Alabama? I don't know. Probably just having the intent to make this your state. Kate says, do we need an actual signature on dispute letter? With clients that I help with this, we don't actually have a signature. We just have, it'd be like, Kate Smith and 123 Main Street. I've never had anybody fuss about that. If they do, like if the Equifax lawyer started, attacking my client in a deposition, I would just pull out a letter from Equifax and say, hey, help this good lawyer find the signature from Equifax on here, because obviously there must be one from Equifax or he wouldn't be making such a fuss about this. So show him where the signature is. And, of course, well, there is no signature. Oh, okay. So, nobody likes a hypocrite. So you can sign it, okay? And there's nothing wrong with signing it. There's no requirement to actually sign it. Eric, don't know how to dumb it down more. Yeah, so I tell you what, I'll come back to these. Let me show you Equifax. It's just one page, and you should be able to see this on the screen. So Equifax will have sort of up above this, they'll have some payment history, like high balance, all that sort of stuff, which is never filled out, by the way. But here's the sort of the rating. Are we current? Are we 30 days, 60 days? Look at this. It goes through February of this year, and it starts in 2017. There's no data. See those little, whatever you call those, like crosshatch. It tells us right here, no data available. Okay. So no data. And then we go here, January, so it goes left to right, or more accurately like that. January, February, March, April. And so we're rocking along, no data, no data. Look at April 2018. Charge off. How do we get to a charge off? 99% of the time, or at least 120 days. And, before that, you're 90, you're 60, you're 30. Like, how do we just jump into a charge off? Well, maybe they could explain that, because I guess technically a creditor could suddenly decide you're not going to pay. You could be current on a car loan, and then you voluntarily surrender the car. And so they could just jump straight to charge off. And so charge off. Well, where's the December 2018? It's missing. Well, then January, we're back to charge off. April 2019, missing. June 2019, missing. November 2019, missing. What's going on here? Where's all that missing data? I would literally just type that. Hey, Equifax, you have no data on the rating except for some scattered months. So where is January through December 2017, January through March 2017, December 2000. I mean, you get the point. Like you just point all this out to them. Like, where is all this information? Okay. Look at this. It says data first delinquency. Equifax is the only one that will really give you this. The others should, but that's a long story. So it says we first went delinquent in April 2018. So, okay, this is part of that consistency. Like, let's take their own information and let's look. Well, what does it say for April 2018? Charge off. Well, wait a minute. That's the date that I first went delinquent. And you reported it that date. Delinquency first reported, April 2018. And it's charge off. That's weird. I mean, it's possible. I've never seen it, but it's possible that you could be totally current and then boom, all in one day, charge off. I would ask the question, what's going on here? You know, what happened in March 2018? And if they say, oh, well, you were 150 days late, but we're doing you a favor not reporting it. Well, wait a minute. Then you're lying down here because you say I first went delinquent April 2018. That's the trigger for the 7-year what's called obsolescence period. So if I really was, 180 days, 150, 120, come back to 2017, 90, 60, 30, well, that would get it off my credit report sooner. So that's why we want to challenge them on anything that's incorrect. Understanding they might correct it, that might be bad for you, but I'd rather it be accurate, okay? Or I'd rather them just delete it than to leave inaccurate, incomplete information. So again, that's why that spreadsheet's helpful. You don't have to have the spreadsheet. You can just sort of eyeball it, but you just need to look at everything. Say, okay, date of first delinquency, April 2018. Well, let me see what's going on up here. Whoa, that's weird. I've seen Equifax where it says date of first delinquency, for example, April 2018, and you go to April 2018, it says current. Well, which one is it? Is it I was delinquent then or I was current? It can't be both. Which one is it? And so again, that's an example with Equifax. And let me show you one with Experian here. And so this is a closed account. And it says it's charged off. There's no balance listed, credit limit 300. And here we have a payment history. Now, we're not given much data on this, okay? Now, we see it was open 2018. So that makes sense. We wouldn't have anything before then. It says it was charged off, we can see here by October. So it was a very short lifespan. So this is all the history we have. So we go, okay, I was current, on time. That's what the little green mark means. And let me just make this bigger to make sure you guys can see this clearly. So February, we were good. March, we were good. Oh, wait, April, we're 30 days late. 60, 90, 120. September, we're 120. October, we're charge off. Where's August? What happened? Did we make a payment? Did we stay at 120? Or is this Experian saying, well, we just don't put anything other than 120? Okay, but what is it? It says data unavailable. Why is the data unavailable? Did this Furnisher, the CB Indigo, did they not furnish the data? Or Experian, did you get it and you're just not reporting it? I don't know. Good, no way for us to know on this side. All we know is it's not reporting there. It says it was updated November 2018. Balance updated November 2018. Why does it say no applicable payment history? What's going on there? Was this thing sold? Okay, it says transferred or purchased by another lender. Okay. Did that happen in November 2018? Presumably it did. But we were at charge off and we're missing this data. So some of these you may find one error or two errors or three errors, or you may find 20 errors. Okay. But I would just look at every negative account and just say what's missing or what's inaccurate. What if it said on time March and April 90 days late? How do you go from on time to 90 days late? Now, again, there's sort of a convoluted explanation, maybe something with certain federal student loans. Okay, well, this isn't a federal student loan. Okay. How would I go in a credit card from on time to 90 days late? You can't do it. It's impossible. Either I was not on time or I was not 90 days late. Something is wrong there. We have a right not to only have positive history on our credit report, but we do have a right to accurate credit reports and complete credit reports. So if it's inaccurate, it's incomplete, we dispute it. They either make it accurate, make it complete, or they delete it. Those are their legitimate options to do. So I don't think there's really anything else on this one. So let me go back to the comments here. Then I'll share one resource with you, and then we'll have a little period for Q&A. Let's see here. So Ace says, Capital One charge-off account for 2017, I disputed it. Now Capital One reports it as open and reporting late payments, missed payments like it's a new account. Hey, I would certainly dispute that and say, if it's charged off, is it still open? Because normally it would be closed when it's charged off. And, when it says missing payments, well, what's my scheduled payment for January 2021, April 2021? What's my scheduled payment? I can't be late on something that I don't have a payment due. Now, again, they can still show charge off every month, like January, February, March, April, May. That's fine. You can have 5 years of charge offs, okay? But they don't need to be saying that you're missing a payment unless there was actually a payment due. So I would just sort of push them on that, Ace, to say, explain this to me, and look at the other credit reports. Maybe you find some discrepancies there. So Darren says, yeah, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's right. So Mark says, what happens to charge-off account when you settle with collection agency? Does it get deleted or reported as paid in full? So here we have to distinguish between a collector who's just collecting but doesn't own the account. Like I owe Sprint $100 and they send it to XYZ debt collector. Well, if I settle with that debt collector, then the original creditor should show that this has been paid, this has been settled in full. But if it's been sold, allegedly sold to a debt buyer, then that original creditor does not have to update it. Now, if you dispute it, a lot of times they will take that off. Okay. If you can show, hey, I settled with Midland or Portfolio or whoever, a lot of times that original creditor, you can get them off. But really, they're not required to do that. Let's see, Jason. So the credit bureaus will remove an address if you no longer live there. So this is a little bit of a gray area. I think if it's within the last 2 years, they can legitimately leave it on. But if it's an address from 10 years ago, 6 years ago, you haven't lived there. If mail was sent there, it would not be forwarded to you. Really, I think that's 1 year for first class mail. So I think that they need to take that off. Generally, they will. Now, if they don't take off an address that we lived 5 years ago, we tell them, look, I used to live there, but I don't live there. I don't want identity theft. I don't want anything sent there. If they don't take that off and that's the only thing, would we sue over that? Probably not. But if we identify half a dozen of those things and phone numbers, I think old phone numbers definitely should come off. Okay. And they don't take that stuff off. And then we have some of these accounts like what we've looked at here. We've got this, and we've got with Equifax, and we've got with TransUnion, Capital One and Ally and these other things. And we bring that suit. See, then we sort of sprinkle on the old addresses, the old phone numbers, the misspelled my name, and that just enhances the case. So to answer your question, though, yes, they need to remove the old address. At least my rule is more than 2 years since I've lived there. Now, they might disagree with me. They may say, we're not removing that. It's tied to a certain account. Well, I would say, all right, let me go make sure that creditor, that Capital One, Discover Card, whoever, has my updated home address, and then dispute it again, and that should come off. All right, let's see. Yeah, Arnold. Ace sounds like hit the jackpot. So, Kate, I disputed the account. I think that triggered a lawsuit. Sometimes it does, but usually they're going to sue anyway. I mean, they have sort of a computer program that tells them when to sue, and it does. It is based somewhat on your credit report. If they see you applying for credit, the credit bureaus sell all your data to the collectors, and they have programs saying, hey, now's the time to strike this person because they've applied for a credit, or they just got a new mortgage, or they just got this or that. So understand the credit bureaus, they are working for the collectors, okay? And so when your credit report, positive stuff is happening, particularly getting new loans, that will sometimes trigger a lawsuit. Shows disputed, but it's inaccurate, waiting trial. So yeah, my view would be beat them at trial and then see if they don't fix it. And if it's a debt collector, talk to a consumer lawyer in your state to find out how long it's going to take to get to trial. Do they think you'll win? Because part of suing the debt collector for a bogus lawsuit is you start the day the lawsuit was filed and you have 1 year under the FDCPA. Now, sometimes you can't get your case tried in a year. You have to make some judgment calls, but definitely get with somebody in your state. Let's see, Ace says, Bank of America charge-off account. After disputing for months, the report is verified. See the letter from Bank of America saying it was sold to Sunrise last year. I wasn't notified. They're still reporting it to the bureaus of balances. Yeah, that would be something. I would include that letter, and I would dispute again and say, hey, guys, I've disputed multiple times. This is inaccurate. Look, Bank of America says they sold it. Now, you have to be careful. Is this a mortgage? Did they sell the servicing rights? Did they sell the actual debt? Is this a credit card? What is this? But either way, Bank of America, if they have truly sold all the rights to collect this account, they should not be reporting. Now, everything they did in the past can stay there, but it should show on their, I think it was it Experian that said, transferred to another lender, purchased by another. That's what it should show. And now whether the new company reports or not, that's up to them. But if Bank of America is continuing to report long after they no longer have the account, I would definitely dispute that. And Kate says, so do I need to file a motion for in court if set up as a Zoom trial? Yeah, I would do that. I would say, look at your Rule 43. I may be off slightly on that, and different states number it differently, but generally it's in that neighborhood. Sort of how are witnesses presenting at trial, and see if you can request that they be in person, and see what the judge does. I mean, the judge may say no, but that's not the worst thing that happens. Worst thing is to not even try and get that. Let's see, Darren says, LVMV fails to prosecute, judge dismisses without prejudice. Can I use that to remove from the credit report? My view is without prejudice doesn't do you any good. It doesn't give you the right to sue. It doesn't give you the right to get that off your credit report. Without prejudice in every state that I know of just means it's like it never happened. Okay, you need it with prejudice. And that's up to the judge on failure to prosecute. They can make it with prejudice, which is what's called an adjudication on the merits. It just means that you won your case. Or they can do it without prejudice, which it's like they never filed the lawsuit in the first place. So if you answered the lawsuit and you disputed it, in other words, said, I don't owe this money, then I would see, did LVMV update, which they update every month, and are they marking it as disputed? That could give you a basis. Let's see. John Gordon says, my FICO report or annual credit report. I prefer annual credit report because that's literally the data from the bureaus. My FICO is good, certainly great for your FICO score. But I have laid a my FICO report the same day as one from the bureaus, and they're not the same. And so my FICO is useful, but let's not ever confuse that for your real report. Credit Karma is useful. Smart Credit's useful. Identity IQ is useful. Those are not your real reports, okay? So you really need to get it directly from annual credit report. So Jason says, when you find multiple issues with one account, is there value disputing one issue at a time where the goal is deletion? I guess it can be because you're presenting a new issue every month. Presumably you're doing it every month. And so you give yourself more chances to get it deleted. So from sort of a traditional credit repair standpoint, that would be fine. My concern about that is, the clients that come to me, they want their credit report fixed. And so I say to them, we're going to dispute it. It's either going to get fixed or we're going to sue, and then they'll fix it and they'll pay you money and they'll pay me money. We're all happy. I mean, they're not happy, but you and I are happy. So that's my approach. My concern when I see people that sort of spread it out, if they're doing credit repair and charging for it, is, why did somebody take 6 months to do something when it could have been done in 1 month, and they're charging every month $100, $200 a month? If the client's good with that, hey, that it's a free country, do whatever you want. But I have seen a lot of people that, the credit repair place will say, well, we got to do one issue at a time, because if you dispute more than once, it's frivolous. No, it's not frivolous. So first of all, they're lying to the client, and they're kind of hiding from the client. The real reason we're doing this is to drag it out. Now, again, if you're doing it on your own, or if there's a credit repair place and they talk to the client and they say, look, we're going to drag this thing out because we think this is the best way. Okay, as long as the client's good with that. But just my viewpoint is, I just want to throw it all out there. It gets fixed or we sue, and then it gets fixed and they pay money. Let's see. Does it matter any open or closed accounts such as bankruptcy or charge anytime you dispute? Should it show you dispute? If it does or doesn't, let me read that again, because maybe I'm missing something. So let me say this, Elisa. Any negative account, and a positive account that's not yours, I would dispute. But any negative account, I would just look for the errors, look for the inconsistencies, look for the incomplete items, and dispute that. And once you dispute it, if it stays on there, it should show at the bottom under the remarks or comments, disputed by consumer. And if they don't, then that's another violation of the law. Typically, it has to be a legitimate dispute. Okay, so we can't just I see people that, they have a Capital One account and they dispute and they say, not mine. And then they go, hey, they didn't mark it as disputed. I go, well, is it your Capital One account? Well, yeah. You've destroyed your credibility. We can't do anything with anything on your credit report now, because you lied when you wrote that. So it has to be a legitimate dispute. If it's legitimate and they don't mark it as disputed, then that's a problem. It's an opportunity for you, a problem for the Furnisher and the credit bureau. See, Kate says, I can't get Experian for some reason. So remember, we talked about this in the first session. You can go to Experian.com, set up an account, and get that once a month, or go to annualcreditreport.com, get it once a week. But at least go to Experian.com. And look, there's no explanation. Why can you not get it from Annual Credit Report, but they'll let you 5 minutes later get it from Experian.com? I don't know. But just sort of, start with Annual Credit Report, go to My Equifax, go to Experian, and usually you can get it that way. Let's see, Darren says, had issues, had to send in a request by mail. It's actually pretty good to get a mailed copy of these, okay? Sometimes there's more data, sometimes there's different data. And just remember, first module, we talked about Adobe Scan on your phone if you don't have a desk scanner. And just scan that in. That can be very useful. Let's see. Caitlin says, usually I have to do each of them individually. It takes a little more time, but usually get all three than doing them one at a time. Yeah, so that's a good tip. And like sometimes it's, are you going through like a VPN, where it sort of makes it look like you're in New York, really you're in Kansas, or you need to sort of clear out the cache on your browser. Sometimes if you're using Google Chrome and you run into a roadblock, like pull up Firefox or Safari or Explorer, whatever Windows is now. And, just try a different browser. Sometimes that can work. Let's see, Darren says, use incognito. Yeah, and that's really just, like you do it, you close it out, and then there's no sort of data there. So then when you pull it back up, sometimes that can work too. Jason says, don't understand how they make so many mistakes. Part of it is they really don't care. Okay. You're not their customer. They don't care about you. And the other thing is nobody does anything about this. Okay. I mean, I'll talk with lawyers that there aren't many of us that do this. And I'll say, hey, you see all these incompletes, like dispute that and sue. And they go, I don't think you can sue on that. I'm like, why not? Well, that's not how somebody told me 10 years ago. I'm like, well, have you looked at the law? Have you looked at cases? No, I just sort of repeat what, some, FCRA guru told me a decade ago. Like, well, maybe you should learn it for yourself, And so lawyers won't even do this. And there's very few lawyers that will sue the credit bureaus. And so they just get away with it, and they may know this will cost us $5 million to change our software, or, one out of 100,000 will sue us. And even if we pay a pretty good amount of money, it's not $5 million. Okay. So it's just, if you remember the deal with Ford Pinto, they realized the tip from behind, it blows up and burns people to death. And I think it was like a $10 part to fix. And they literally did a spreadsheet and figured out, here's how much if we recall all these, we put the part in there, we pay for the service, the damage to our brand, versus here's how much we pay out when people burn to death, when people are partially burned, when people are massively burned. And they just ran the numbers and said, guys, it's cheaper to let people get burned up and just pay out the settlements. And now when that memo was found, that changed the whole dynamic here, because the punitive damages skyrocketed because they had always lied and said, we don't know what's going on. Yeah, they absolutely knew what was going on. Same thing with credit bureaus. The more people that sue them, it'll eventually clean their act up, which I guess in a way is bad for lawyers like me. But there's always an industry that's cheating people. So I'm not worried about, running out of people to sue. So Jason says, they're more likely to delete or correct inaccuracies when disputing inaccurate information. It's kind of mixed. Like I've got one where American Express had incomplete, inaccurate information. We disputed it. And this is pretty typical. One bureau investigated it and botched the investigation. Okay, so we're suing them. One bureau refused to respond at all, so we're suing them because we can prove they got the dispute. And one bureau deleted the whole account. It's like, boom, deleted, gone. That's pretty typical, So, and you might have one that would fix it, and one that will delete it, and one that won't do anything. So it's sort of random. I wish I could tell you, Jason, whether it's more likely to delete or more likely to fix, but it seems kind of random. Let's see. Marie says, told because another reporting agency is submitting the information, for example, Lexus. You can get your Lexus report. They are a credit bureau, and they're also a vendor and sometimes also a furnisher of information. So, Lexus is just sort of an odd bird because they wear so many hats, so to speak. See, Joe said, dispute some items in my report that came back verified, sent a method of verification. What are they required to supply to me with a method of verification? Really just what their procedure is for disputing it. Frankly, is not much they have to tell you. Now, they normally won't respond to that, which I think is a violation. They try and get around it by sort of putting that in the results of investigation. But take my example where it was Experian in my the case I'm talking about today. Experian didn't respond at all. So, if we sent them a letter saying, hey, give me your method of verification, and they ignored it, we could sue for that. But I've already got enough to sue, so we're just going to go ahead and sue them for that. Let's see. Thomas says, beware, problem with Experian is sign up, you agree to arbitration, can never sue them in state or federal court, only use annualcreditreport.com. Thomas, that's something that when you set up an account, you do have to look at. I can tell you that, to my knowledge, that's not been true for many years. Now, if you pay Experian for a product, sometimes there may be an arbitration agreement in there. But just getting a free report, typically it's not. Now, again, check it out. I mean, they can change it today, and I last looked at it, a couple of months ago. But just setting up a free account, normally that's not true. And, I mean, there are still lawyers that say never get anything through annualcreditreport.com because you give up your right. You can never sue them. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh, that's true. I go, well, let's pull up Annual Credit Report. We look at, I go, show it to me. They're like, well, it must be true because I heard somebody at a seminar said they had heard somebody else at a seminar that they had read it online somewhere else. I'm like, well, we have to look. And I'm not fussing at you, Tom. I'm just saying you raise a great point. You may give up your rights, so you have to check and just be mindful of what's going on. But the last time I looked at Experian.com for the free account, I did not see an arbitration agreement. And here's the other thing. Arbitration is not necessarily bad, okay? There are a lot of companies, we take them to arbitration, and they're like kicking and screaming trying to get into court. That's a whole nother webinar series. We'll talk about that. But I'll tease you with this. You have a problem with your cell phone, with your internet provider, your cable company. Trust me, the best thing in the world is have an arbitration agreement. You'll get paid a whole lot more money than if you go to court. So again, we'll cover that in another webinar. Let's see. Darren, can you explain how we get our full reports of typical disclosure? Well, you can ask for the full report. They're going to just send you what you get. Okay. And unfortunately, there are some bad case decisions, not everywhere, but some bad case decisions saying that basically what they give you is your full report, even though it technically doesn't meet the definition. But you certainly can ask them for your full report. Let's see. Sharon says the account's charged off. Is there still a late payment? Not necessarily. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see like a 30-day or 60-day. You'd expect to see a charge off. Now, sometimes we'll see a company will not report. I'm going to come back to sharing screen in just a moment. But sometimes the company will not report charge off. They'll say 120, 120, 120, 120, 120, and it really should be a charge off. And so sometimes we can sort of force them to make that a charge off because actually 120 in the right circumstance or the wrong circumstance can be more damaging than a charge off. Let's see. Thomas says arbitration is still there. Check last week on the free accounts. Okay. Well, again, just whenever you're signing up for anything, Credit Karma, online Capital One account, I mean, whatever it is, check and see if it's there. I just haven't seen it on the free account, but maybe I overlooked it. The other thing is, I'll say this, I've been suing the credit bureaus for 20 years. Not one time have they ever raised the issue of arbitration. And it used to be, through annualcreditreport.com, that used to have an arbitration agreement like a decade ago. We'd pull our reports from there. We'd sue Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. They never once breathed a word about arbitration. And there are some reasons for that. In arbitration, there's no appeal. So we get, the right arbitrator, or what Experian would say is the wrong arbitrator. And he says $250,000, $200,000 in attorney's fees. Well, there is no 11th Circuit to go appeal that to, or 7th Circuit or 9th Circuit. There's no asking to change your mind. They're just stuck with it. And so they're a little bit terrified of that. Okay. And it's so offensive for a credit bureau to do this that they worry about the CFPB hammering them on this. So like I said, it's never come up, and I can't tell you how many lawsuits we filed against credit bureaus, but certainly check it out. And if you're not comfortable with it, don't get it that way. You may pay for it, get them to mail it to you, whatever you feel most comfortable with. So let's see. Yeah, and Darren and Thomas are kind of talking about this in the chat. Is it using the website, or is it merely getting the report and then sending a dispute? I just haven't had a problem with it. Darren, on charge off, would there be a late payment amount? If you're talking about like a late fee, there can be, but generally not. Okay. If you're talking about like a past due amount on the payment history, yeah, it should show a past due. Let's see, reporting both charge off and $2,500 late payment. I guess I would make sure, Sharon, we say late payment, is that the past due amount? Because it can show that. If we go back to, let me pull up, if I can get this to pull up here. So let's see, like right here, it's got the past due amount. So it, in a charge off, it would say that. Let me see if I have a better one for us. Yeah, here's a better one. So you see it says charge off and past due is $114. And you can see this is November, December, January. So the balance is going down, the past due is going down. So evidently we're paying it, but there's no indication of those payments coming. Let's see. Jason asked a question about not living in Alabama, can still hire you. To some extent, and I'll try to wrap up these questions real quick. I'll show you a handout that you can have, and we'll cover some of that. Let's see, Marie, have to get back to work. Thanks for your time. Hey, thanks for showing up. And again, you guys will get a replay on this. And if you miss anything, just let me know. And Kate says, haven't found an attorney, knows credit reporting in the Kansas City area. We'll talk about that, Kate. Darren, past due amount, if it's sold to a debt buyer, shouldn't the original creditor stop reporting a balance in a past due? Absolutely. Yeah, if it's been sold, it should only show that, now the balance is zero, okay? It can show historically that we owe money. So let me find an example here. So this Experian one, see how the balance is zero or there's no data there. That's correct, because once they sell it or transfer it, you can't have a balance there. Otherwise, you would have like $300 to the original creditor and $300 to the debt buyer. It makes it look like, oh, $600. Okay. But if they had a historical sort of chart in here for April, it could show $300. Okay. In May, $300. That's fine because that's historical. But the current status, it better say zero balance if they've sold it. Let's see, Lisa, do cut and paste purchase agreements hold up in court? Forged signature, original creditor, attorney, cut and paste for branch in my state. So a purchase agreement's where the original creditor has sold it to a debt buyer or a debt buyer has sold it to another debt buyer. They have to prove that purchase agreement, in my view. Now, every debt collection lawyer would disagree with me. I think they have to bring in the full purchase agreement. They hate it. I mean, the last one of these I tried, and this was a month or so ago, they wanted to have the bill of sale, which is just a one-page document. And I objected to that because that's an incomplete document. We need the complete document. Does this sort of sound like credit reporting? These themes sort of run through here. So don't just show me one page of the document, show me the whole document. And they're like, well, the purchase agreement's super confidential. We don't want John to see that. Well, I don't really care what you want. If you want to put this into evidence, you have to let me see it. They say, well, Judge, how about we just let you look at it and you'll see there's nothing here to see. We don't want John to see it. The judge is like, that's not how this works. We're in public court here. You have to show the other side. And so whether it's a cut and paste, I mean, if you think it's fraudulent or forged, then you would certainly make that argument. And if the judge found that it was a forgery, somebody's going to be in big trouble on that. Josh asked if there'll be a replay. Yeah, you should get it. I think it maybe takes a couple hours to process. Then there should be an automatic email go out. So Lisa's in Kansas City. So we have the Kansas City crew here. And, Caitlin, yeah, after the webinar, I get a link to watch it. So Kate says, if the original creditor shows Avant, but junk debt buyer is showing 12 Web Bank, if you can match up those accounts, the open date, although that doesn't necessarily work with the junk debt buyer, but the balance and request validation even from the junk debt buyer. say, show me what this is, and then you can point out those discrepancies like, hey, Jefferson Capital says this is a web bank account, but they also say it's this Avant account. Like, which one is it? And these things don't match up. And so again, look for any discrepancies. Let me show you this document here, and I will share this for you guys. I'll put it in this is a Word version and a PDF. I did this right. Yeah, so same document. This is just a little checklist for you. So as you're going through, and you might want to print this out or just keep it up on Word or PDF or whatever's easiest for you. Just, before you do your dispute letter, like, do I have my actual credit reports? And this is our module 1. And let me share that also. And if anybody's missing any of these, just email me and I'll send them to you. So module 1 is actually about the pulling your credit reports. And so I'll give you just a second about that. Module 2 is about the biographical information. So we just take each piece of information and it goes into either the correct bucket, the wrong but used to be correct, or never was correct. And we just drop each piece of information in there. My name, maybe my name changed after marriage. Well, it's not correct now, but it used to be correct. Or I think I told you guys this. I had one time, it said my name was Watts John. That's not my name. My name is John Watts. And so, that would go on the never correct bucket. Okay. And then let me share the module 2. And then we look at bankruptcies, public records. Okay, normally that's only going to be a bankruptcy, but you compare what is your report saying with what does actual court say. So the case number, the court it was filed, the date it was filed, the date it was discharged, the chapter of bankruptcy, anything that you can find that doesn't match, then you dispute that. And really same thing with inquiries. We're looking at each inquiry and saying, all right, did I give permission? Did I do business with? Did I apply for credit? For a hard inquiry. For a soft inquiry, that's a little bit of a looser standard in this sense. If you have a Capital One card, they can pull your credit every month. They'll do it as a soft pull, an account review. But let's say you closed your Capital One account. Let's say you discharged it. Let's say Capital One sued you and you beat them at trial. Well, they don't need to be pulling your credit report for an account review. There is nothing to review. Okay. So again, just make a note of that. And let me get, that was module 3 here. And then on, these accounts, this is really what we talked about last week and then a good part of this week. If it's just not your account, it's identity theft or you've been mixed or merged with somebody else, well, you say that. And I treat those as all identity theft because you don't know from kind of this standpoint. You say, look, there's a Capital One on my account. I never had a Capital One account. I don't know if it's identity theft or a mixed merge file. Here's a police report. Here's an identity theft affidavit. And get this off my report. Now, again, be truthful about it. Okay, there are people that do these credit sweeps where they just pretend it's identity theft for everything. That's a crime. Okay, you don't want to go to prison for this. You don't want to lie. Totally destroy your credibility when you do that. And I've known of credit repair places being sued by their customers because they did that for their customers. Okay, and said stuff was identity theft when it was not. Made up police reports, made up affidavits, or kind of the opposite where it was identity theft. And because the credit repair place was spending no time with the customer, they would send a letter like, as if from the client saying, I have loved doing business with your company. You've been wonderful. I need a courtesy deletion of a 30-day late. And really it was identity theft. Well, guess what? You just admitted this was your account. Okay. So again, that's why I stress nobody's going to do a better job for you than yourself on disputing because nobody will care as much as you and nobody knows as much as you. Hey, Blue Cross Blue Shield And well, I don't know that looking. A credit repair place doesn't know that looking at it. So, is it yours? Is there contradictory information, incomplete information, wrong information that you can prove it's wrong? And again, that's what we've been talking about a lot today. And let me just get that module up. And then when you do the letter, include a driver's license, utility bill, credit card statement, bank statement, insurance statement, something that has, a well-known company or a governmental utility, something like that, your name, your address, and put your social, put your date of birth, all that sort of stuff. If you've just recently moved, just explain it. Like, hey, you'll notice my driver's license says 123 Main Street. I actually now live at 456 First Avenue. For example, here's my mortgage, or here's my new lease agreement. Here's my State Farm insurance showing this, or my water bill, my power bill. Okay. And keep a copy, everything you send. Don't say, well, I've got a Word version of the dispute letter, and I've got somewhere I've got probably no, keep a full copy. I strongly prefer these be sent by certified mail. So you literally go to the post office, or you go to like certifiedmaillabels.com. I'll put that in the chat. This is who I use. I think I have well, I tell you what, let me just, I don't get any, affiliate fee or anything like that. You may have to set up an account with them. I think LetterStream does the same thing. I mean, just Google, how do I send certified mail? You upload a PDF, give the address, they send it out, they track it. It's a pretty good deal. If you do this online, so you go to Equifax.com, Experian.com, TransUnion.com, you do the dispute online. I'm not a fan of that because they try to really limit your choices. Just make sure that you upload your dispute letter. Okay. Now, you may be disputing 5 accounts. You may have to upload it, 5 times, or maybe you break it out into different letters. Okay. But whatever you do, make sure, please, please, please make sure you're recording your screen. Okay. If you don't know how to do that on a phone, I would do it on a computer anyway. Set up a Zoom with yourself. Share your screen. Click the record button. Make sure your screen's being recorded. Okay. And because so many people come to me and they're like, I did this dispute. It's a fabulous dispute. And I'm like, well, what did you tell Experian? Well, was that Equifax? Maybe that was TransUnion. I don't know what I told Experian. But I mean, one of these, I did a great dispute. And so let's sue all 3 bureaus. I'm like, we can't. We don't know what you disputed. Okay. And trust me, the bureaus, accidentally lose this stuff. And so you've got to be able to prove it. Prove it by certified mail or record your screen, and you can sort of narrate it. I mean, don't have any extra commentary that's not needed, but you can say, okay, this is John Watts. Today is May the 6th. It's 12:42 p.m. I'm logging into Equifax. Okay. I'm clicking on this. Now I'm uploading my attachments, send or whatever, and it says successful. Okay, now I'm doing this account, or I'm disputing this personal information, or these inquiries. Not all bureaus will let you dispute everything, okay, online, but you can always dispute stuff by certified mail. So to me, it's worth the money. If it's worth fixing our credit report, it's worth dropping, unless you just don't have it, it's worth dropping $10 per certified mail letter. Whatever attachments you need, put those in there, send it out. Again, I like to use, like certified mail labels or LetterStream, something like that. It just makes it easy. But if you physically take it to the the post office, make sure that you keep an exact copy of what you sent, a physical copy and an electronic copy. Okay. People for years have done this where they go, oh, well, here's the Word document. And I'm like, okay, is that exactly what you sent? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe I changed it, or, I may have handwritten some stuff on the letter. I don't know. Does it matter? I'm like, yeah, it matters. Okay. You have to be able to prove exactly what you sent the bureaus, because if you think the bureaus won't lie, won't throw stuff away, then I hate to tell you this, but you're very naive. Okay. They will absolutely do that, in my opinion. So you've got to be able to protect yourself. It's like defensive driving. You're driving along somebody and they're sort of weaving. Well, get ahead of them or get behind them. Like, yeah, they're not supposed to cross into your lane, but it's little consolation when they do that. So make sure you have a full copy. Here's what I would do. You take your dispute letter, like an extra copy of it. And I mentioned this before. So you get the results back from Equifax. And just for each item, right on there, did they delete it? Did they fix it? Did they not respond? What did they do? Okay. And then for each item, if they fixed it or deleted it, well, great. You're golden. There's nothing more to do. Well, what if they fixed it, but now they added a new problem? Well, sometimes you can still sue for that, but sometimes you need to dispute again because technically that new problem you haven't disputed. It just depends. Like if you say, hey, you have incomplete history. I want every month filled out. And for example, here are the months you're not filling out. And then they like take away the data from 1 month. Do you need to dispute that again? Maybe you do. I probably would. Okay. But what if they don't fix it? Well, then talk to a lawyer about suing. What if they won't even respond to you, but you can prove that they got it? That's what I'm doing with Experian. I would say at least a third of the bureaus we sue, maybe half the bureaus we sue, never respond to our disputes. Okay, it's their choice. Now, if I was doing bogus disputes, then I lose that case. But these are legitimate disputes. And when they go, well, Judge, we just don't have the manpower during COVID to process disputes. Well, funny thing is you can still process all the payments and you're still getting all the money. You don't get to just like push one part of your business away. Okay. So that's when I'd say, look at talking to a lawyer. Either they put new information. You're like, I don't know, should I dispute? Should I sue? Or maybe you're just wondering, should I dispute or sue? Talk to a lawyer that does this. Or if they won't fix it or they just don't respond to you, definitely talk to a lawyer. So that gets us to the last part, which is how do you find a lawyer? And I have something written on here, the dirty secret of hiring any professional. I'm not supposed to say this, okay? But I'm going to tell you. The dirty little secret is you honestly have no way of knowing if a lawyer's any good. Okay, that may seem like a unusual statement or sort of a bold statement, but it's true. Let's think about as a doctor. Do you know if Dr. Smith or Dr. Jones is a good doctor? You say, oh yeah, they're a great doctor. How do you know? Oh, well, a friend of mine, her sister-in-law's brother-in-law said, Dr. Jones, she's a great doctor. Go, well, you don't know. Okay. We say, well, no, actually, my sister went to Dr. Jones, so she knows, so I know. Well, actually, you don't know. Well, I went to Dr. Jones, and I got better. Well, would you have gotten better anyway? Maybe you got better slower than you would have if Dr. Jones had been competent. My point is, we really don't know about other professions. If you say to me, John, you've been a lawyer in Alabama for 26 years. Who's the best criminal defense lawyer in Alabama? I have no idea. Okay. I can tell you who has a good reputation. I can tell you who might be in the media. I can tell you who might have written a book on it. I don't know if they're any good. You say, well, John, you've been doing personal injury for 26 years. Who's the best personal injury lawyer? Well, I don't know. I know how good I am. I know lawyers I've tried cases with, how good they are, at least in that case. I know how good my law partner is because we've been practicing law together for, more years than either one of us probably cares to remember. But if you say, well, what about this lawyer over here? That they call that guy the $1 million, Mark the $1 million lawyer. Well, the old joke is, yeah, he gets $1 million settlements, but his cases are $2 million cases. He's getting half the value of the case, okay? So the truth of the matter is it's really, really hard to know. So how do we pick out a plumber or a doctor or a therapist or a mortgage broker or fill in the blank? Well, you really don't know. So you have to use things that the fancy word is by proxy. Okay. So we look for things, and that doesn't directly tell us whether they're any good, but it sort of gives us an idea. Okay. And the two things I have listed here are really the ultimate thing, which is, do you feel confident in this lawyer? You're talking about hiring a lawyer to walk along this journey with you. Do you feel confident in it? If you don't hire them. If you don't feel confident in this doctor, you're like, the doctor told me I don't need surgery. I think that doctor's an idiot. Well, go get another opinion. Don't rely on that doctor. And do you feel comfortable? Okay. Now, that doesn't always mean you just perfectly fit with them. Okay. You may say, I think this is the best neurosurgeon in the world, has a terrible bedside manner, but I don't really care about that. I want my brain operated on correctly. Okay. But if this is a more long-term thing, you may say, I really need somebody that I feel comfortable with. Okay. Well, how do you get to that? And these are just some questions. Does a lawyer have experience suing under the Fair Credit Reporting Act? Now, everybody has to have their first case. Okay. If you had to already have a case before you could file the first case, you could never have a lawyer representing consumers. Okay. So this is just something to think about. Is this your first case? Have you done this before? How many times have you done this? Now, somebody might say, I've only done this one time, but I'm the best lawyer in the world, and you're convinced they're the best lawyer in the world. Hey, they may very well be the best lawyer for you. Okay. But that's something to ask. Do they stay up to date? Or are they saying, well, here's how we did it in 2018. Well, that's fine, except it's not 2018. Has the law changed? Have strategies changed? Do they stay up with this? Do they teach about this? Do they teach other lawyers? Do they teach consumers about this? One great thing about teaching is it makes you learn it because you don't want to look like an idiot. Okay. So I've stood in front of, I don't know, probably the most at any one time, like 300 consumer lawyers, training them in the FCRA. I don't want to look like an idiot. So I really have to know it. Okay. Obviously what we're doing here, I don't want to look like an idiot, so I hope that I know what I'm doing here. And I'm not saying everybody has to have all of these things, because you may have the best lawyer in the world and she's like, I'm never going to teach another lawyer. I don't want competition. Okay. But are they staying up with the law? Do they teach? Can they explain it to you? Okay. And I think, I sort of combine these two. Can they explain about your case, or will they only tell you after you hire them? In other words, is it like, well, I got this secret over here, and only when you pay me money, not that you pay money in these cases, but only when you hire me, then I'll reveal to you. Otherwise it's this, proprietary secret that I have. That makes my alarm bells go off when somebody says, I know the answer, I can help you, but I won't talk to you about it until you hire me. I just go, this has all the makings of a scam, of a con artist. Okay. And so now again, they may be legitimate and it may not bother you. I'm just saying that's something that a lot of people will consider. And then the last two things, are they in your state? And some of you have asked me about, hey, John, if I'm not in Alabama, can I hire you? Well, obviously I'm not in your state. I'm in Alabama. It's better to have a lawyer in your state because the case may need to be brought in your state. So the lawyer you're talking to either needs to be licensed in your state or can co-counsel with somebody who's licensed in your state. Now, and this is pretty common, okay? Because again, there aren't that many of us that do this. So, there may be a lawyer in New York who, calls me and says, hey, John, I've got this Alabama client. Will you work with me on this case in Alabama? Sure. We'll work together on it. Could be somebody that says, hey, John, I just want to refer this case to you. I don't want to be involved. I just want part of the fee, but I'm not going to help out in the work. Well, we can do that as lawyers. Or it may be that, somebody, contacts me and they're in, I'm just going to pick a state that I don't think anybody's mentioned, Iowa. They're in Iowa. And I say, I think you have a good case. It needs to be brought in Iowa. Let me either go get a lawyer they don't have to know anything about the FCRA just to get me admitted into Iowa for this one case, or let me find an FCRA lawyer that I can co-counsel with in your state. And, it doesn't, thing is, whether you have one lawyer or 4 lawyers, it doesn't change the fee. Okay. The lawyers just split that money amongst themselves. And it's pretty common to co-counsel. So the final thing is, this is not precise, but I promise you, this is so true. Just what's your gut feeling? You sort of analyze all the data and then you just say, this feels like I need to run from this guy or this gal. Hey, trust your gut. If you say, I got a good feeling about this person, it's not always right, but usually it's right. So you've got this that you can download. And like I said, use it in Word or PDF. And I hope that will be helpful to you. And we have been going almost 2 hours here. So we're going to wrap this thing up quickly. I'll just try to grab the remaining questions here. Let's see. Kate, thank you for your time and information. You're very welcome. And I appreciate you being on here. I have a couple accounts that are definitely not mine. Should I go ahead and file a police report? It may just be a mixed file. I would do that because it's sort of like visualize a big curtain, okay? And you're on one side of the curtain. On the other side, there's Mr. Identity Theft or Mr. Mixed Merge File. Unfortunately, you can't tell. You have to open that curtain to find out. Well, if you tell the credit bureaus it's a mixed merge file, and it is, then great. You're in good shape. If they don't fix it, you sue them. And even if they do fix it, a lot of times we can still sue for that because they know it's a mixed merge file. But if you tell them it's a mixed merge, it's really identity theft, they don't have any obligation to investigate. You can't sue over that. So I always assume it's identity theft. But I put in the letter, look, I don't know if this is identity theft. I don't know if you mixed me with some other file because you don't have good procedures. I don't know. But here's what I do know. I never had a Capital One account. I never applied for American Express. I never took out a mortgage loan with Wells Fargo for property located in New York. That's what I do know, okay? Now, some little hints are you start seeing on your addresses somebody else's address or not your addresses. You're like, wow, that's weird. Only TransUnion has 5 addresses in Georgia. I've never lived in Georgia. And I have this mortgage that it's not mine. And there's this collection account that says for an emergency room in Georgia. I've never been to the doctor in Georgia. Well, it could be identity theft, okay? Certainly it could be. Or it's somebody in Georgia and then your state, they've mixed you together. So I just say, look, I don't know which one it is, but in case it's identity theft, here's my police report, here's my identity theft affidavit, get this stuff gone, okay? See, Gerard says, can you please send me the attorney's information, does this South Carolina? So Gerard, if you'll email me, then and tell me what you're dealing with, because there's a couple people there, they all kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses, and I'll see if I know who will be the best one for you. And I'll just say this, not necessarily for you, Gerard. I mean, you can, but just if you're in another state, there's a couple of ways we can do this. You can say, hey, John, do you know somebody in my state? And if I do, say, sure, here it is. Have at it. I'm not involved. Or I may say, I don't know anybody. Here's a website that'll start you on kind of a search. What a lot of people want me to do, though, and again, this is fine, whether you want this or don't want this, just tell me. Say, hey, John, will you help me find somebody? And I want you to be involved, work with that lawyer if it needs to be brought, for example, in South Carolina or Kansas or wherever. And I'm totally fine with that as well. Okay. So it's, if you just are looking for a name, I can say, hey, here's somebody, tell them I sent you, good luck. I'm not involved anymore. Or I can be involved and help, with that case. So totally up to you, however you want to do it. Let's see, Kate, I've had other issues going on, Cash App cards arriving I didn't apply for. Yeah, that may very well be identity theft. And, just make sure your bank accounts are good, that there's not like some cash app set up to draw from a bank account. And, I would reach out to Cash App directly as an example and say, hey, I'm getting stuff from you guys. I never applied. I want you to make a note. Don't have any applications without calling me. And, ask them to send you the information. Maybe somebody's, literally has stolen your identity and is applying for stuff. And you can tell that here's the written application. Here's the IP address, and it's in Guam or something, or it's in South Dakota and you're in Missouri. That's a good sign. Kate says, keep big filing cabinets. How long would you keep disputes for? You have to sue within 2 years, but I would keep them longer than that. But look, if it's 4 or 5 years, maybe just scan them and throw out the paper copies. Darren says, how can you prove what was in the certified mail envelope? Is that an issue? I've heard people from the bureau say, oh yeah, we get certified mail and they're totally empty. I'm like, really? People are doing that? I mean, I guess it's possible. Okay. But, sort of the ultimate proof, I guess, would be you get your phone, you turn the video on, you say, okay, it's, May 6th at 1:05, p.m. Central Time. And I'm like, here's my dispute letters. I'm putting them in the envelope. I'm sealing them. And, I guess they could say, well, then you unsealed them and took the stuff out. I mean, at some point, it gets a little ridiculous. And the judges kind of get turned off when these bureaus are like, well, we didn't get anything. Darren didn't send us anything. Yeah, I did. No, you did. Yeah, I did. Here's certified mail. Okay, yeah, you did. We signed for that. But there was nothing in it. So I'll give you one example. And this was a client, but she did this before she met me. She sent a certified mail letter to a law firm, collection law firm. And she was at trial. And it came up about, did she send this dispute or not? And they said, we never got a dispute from her. She never sent it. She's like, I did send it. And they go, you have no proof. She goes, here's the green card. Okay. Judge was like, really? You got the green card? And the lawyer said, well, I don't recognize this. Let me call my office, see what's going on. So take like a 20-minute break. Said, Judge, we admit the green card was signed, but it was a thief stole the mail. The judge is like, really? You're a collection law firm. You get hundreds of pieces of mail. And the mailman or mail lady came with all these, and a thief intercepted these and signed a name. They go, yes, absolutely. So I can find that a little hard to believe, but okay, counselor. And so he said, let's continue. And my client, again, she's doing this on her own. She did a fabulous job. She's like, Judge, I sent another certified mail letter. He's like, really? She pulled out a second green card, sent like 3 months later. Guess whose name was on it? That same thief that stole the certified mail. Judge is like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that you guys have such a lousy process receiving certified mail. You're letting the same thief month after month steal all your certified mail. The lawyer's like, Judge, I withdraw that, objection. We got the mail. Yeah. So it's just, it kind of strains believability when they say, well, you went to all this trouble and you paid like $10 for the certified mail and you didn't put anything in it. So I've never had them make that argument to me. I've had them lie about getting it. And then when we point out certified mail, then they go, oh, we just found it. Sorry, I was going to tell you that anyway, John. I'm sure you were. All right, so let's see. Kate, go by my intuition. Why I'm not confident on a few here. Thought about writing a credit reporting repair book. I have thought about it. It's just hard, because I think I mentioned this. What I do on a day-to-day basis is, I file lawsuits. I was producing 1,400 documents this morning. I've got a federal jury trial that we have a bunch of stuff due in tomorrow. And so I may just take these webinars and have them transcribed or something. So maybe that will be the book. So Kate, you and everybody else will be in that book. So let's see, Josh, should I get my letters notarized? You certainly can do that. That is absolutely fine to do. It's not a requirement, but it doesn't hurt to do that. And, particularly if you've got a notary that will do it, not charge you a lot of money. Kate, can you get licensed in Kansas? So maybe, maybe. Let's see. Darren, had a lawyer that was new, showed up late to court, didn't review the case. Let me speak to the judge. We lost. Yeah, and look, there's nothing wrong with the new lawyer. Believe it or not, see all this. At one time, I didn't have gray hair. And so there's nothing wrong with being new. It's just, I think you need to know that before you hire somebody. And maybe you're paying somebody who's brand new less than you're paying somebody that's been doing it for a decade, And same thing with a doctor, Now, there may come a point where you go, well, I don't want this doctor because I think she's out of date. I want this newer doctor who's learned, more recent stuff. Well, again, that goes back to, are they staying up with the cutting edge? Are they teaching this? Are they staying, up to date with what's going on? And so anyway, that's something to think about. When do we go to original creditor to get documentation the furnisher won't provide? So, the furnisher is whoever's providing the information to the bureau. So that could be the original creditor or the debt collector. So if you're not getting stuff from the debt collector, you could go to the original creditor. And that is certainly one strategy to do. I usually don't do that a whole lot, just to be honest with you. We dispute it, we find the errors, and all I need are some errors and that don't get fixed, and then we sue. So Kate said, I had LA, California address. I don't know, maybe that was either LA or Louisiana. So definitely be disputing that. And Kate, you say that they told you applied online. I'd say, well, give me the information. They ought to have the exact date, exact time to the second, the IP address. Now, again, somebody can use a VPN to kind of, disguise their IP address. But I would ask for all that. And again, sometimes they get a little like, well, we can't find that information. Like, what do you mean? You're an online company. You can't find that information. It makes no sense. Let's see. Offer great information, patient and cool. Way you deliver the information. Well, thank you. You're very, very kind to say that. Certified mail enclosures, you can get the post office to stamp when they put the information into. Okay, that's interesting, Eric. I actually did not know that. So I guess what you're saying is you take your package to them, not in the envelope, and they sort of like stamp each page or stamp one page or something. So yeah, that's a great idea. Let's see. Eric says certificate of mailing. You sent the item. We say you did. Okay, so Eric gives some information here about if you're going directly to the post office, certificate of mailing looks like form 3817 or 3877, and also affidavit of mailing for a notary. Okay, so that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see, Darren, this has been very helpful. Helped us reach a much wider audience, have background developing seminars, online education. Interested in having a hand making this more bite-sized, module-based. Thrilled to see it help. Yeah, so Darren, just make sure to reach out to me on that just by email, and I'll be glad to chat with you about it, because I am setting up some stuff where we'll have online training courses, and I was thinking actually on these, I would probably redo these videos, just sort of, where it's just me, because they do get really long with the comments, but then making these available, because some people, like to, we're getting a ton of questions, and that's fabulous. So reach out to me on that, Darren. And let's see. Joe says, sure, certified mail is best. How strong is priority mail with tracking? I think it's good. You could FedEx it. It's going to be more expensive. You can FedEx it. You really want something where, if possible, there's a signature. Now, look, here's a little secret of certified mail for the last year. A lot of times there is no signature, right? They write COVID-19 on it. It's just you're kind of doing the best you can, okay? So priority mail, if you can show when that's been delivered. I'm trying to think. I don't think priority mail, they sign for it. I think just the post office says, hey, we delivered it. Look, that's better than first class mail. It's something. I think the best is certified, but sometimes we're in a position where can't do that. Do the online recording, kind of like I'm doing here, and do it online or send it priority, or however you can get it there. Return receipt signature is important. Listen, guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for the comments, and you guys are fabulous, sticking around for 2 hours now, and you'll get a replay. If you need anything that we've done throughout these 5 modules, just let me know. I'll send those to you. Again, eventually this sort of stuff will go on our Consumer Law University, and it'll just be very easy. Here's the videos, here's the attachments, the handouts, all that sort of stuff. So thanks for going through it. Definitely let me know your feedback also. And look, it's always nice when somebody says, hey, that was great, that was very helpful. And I'm no different. I like to hear that. But also want to know what will make this better. If you think maybe the order should have been different, or maybe these should have been a lot shorter, just give me your feedback, because I do want to make this as useful and as helpful for everybody that wants to watch it. And again, my model, which is not everybody's model, my model is I put all this information out there. It's free. This is never going to be behind like a paywall or anything. I give the information away. It's good business for me. I mean, enough people come to me, and we have plenty of times we can sue the credit bureaus, which I enjoy doing. But I also think it's just the right thing to do because there's so much misinformation out there. And I want you guys to have, obviously it's from my perspective, but what I believe is the accurate, correct information and how to do this. So just give me any feedback you have, and you guys have a fabulous rest of your Thursday. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.